Hello, my name is AJ Bowman, and today I'm going to be talking about stress through Christianity and how to deal with stress through Christianity. So, as we all know, Christianity is just one type of religion, and within Christianity, there are multiple different practices that fall under the category of Christianity. So there's Catholicism, there's Lutheran, there's non-denominational, all of those super popular. There's some unpopular ones, and then there's subcategories within those subcategories. So there's so many different ways that people practice Christianity, and a lot of the time, one person could go to a Catholic church and not resonate with it and then switch churches, but be at a church with people who don't practice necessarily with the same. So this is why I'm trying to get across the point that everyone practices Christianity differently, and that one person could practice it within prayer of physically holding their hands together, praying as a traditional way, or one person could just talk to God. That's just a very small, minuscule example of how everyone practices Christianity differently. And within all of these subcategories, there's even people who practice different than other people. Now, a verse I want to share with you is in Matthew 26:38. During the Garden of Gethsemane, he said, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death." Now, what does this show us? This shows us exactly how even Jesus was stressed to the point where he died for us. He was stressed more than most people in the world today. And this gets me to my next point of everyone deals with stress, and that is okay. There are three different types of stress. The first one is acute, which is very small types of stress, like everyday schoolwork, studying for the next test that's coming up. And then there is episodic stress, which is, by definition, reoccurring to people overloaded with responsibilities and schedules. So this is a person who, this could be work, for an example. If you're super stressed about work, about where you're working, if you're where you should be, anything relating to that is an example of episodic stress. And the final one of stress is chronic, caused by long-term exposure to stressors. Chronic stress is a buildup of both acute and episodic stress. So if you have a lot of acute stress, if you have a lot of episodic stress, it builds on itself, builds and builds and builds, and becomes chronic. Acute stress is normal, very normal for people to have acute stress. It's a part of life and how it is. And even Jesus had acute stress. But episodic and chronic stress are where you should be seeking out help for that stress. Now, another verse I want to share with you is Philippians 4:6-7. It encourages us, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God." This really shows that God is with you the whole way. He's with you from start to beginning. He knows what you're doing, so there's really nothing to hide from him. And he's with you the whole way to help you deal with all of the stress and anxiety and problems that you're dealing with. This gets me to my next point, is that God has a path for you. I want to share a personal anecdote of mine. God has not always been present in my life. And actually up until a couple weeks ago, which is exactly why I wanted to give this presentation, is I was talking to some of my friends and we had a super late night conversation just about Christianity and God. And it really opened my eyes. Really, just I felt God's presence in that moment. And it truly helped me become a better Christian and become more connected with God. Now, that moment of us talking really showed that God has a path for me. I started out in a Catholic church, and I didn't always resonate with everything that was going on. I just recently switched to a non-denominational church, and it's been super eye-opening for me. And one of the topics that we covered was dealing with stress through Christianity, and I just loved it, and I really connected with it, and I wanted to present that here again to open up the view for other people. So God always has a path for you. This book here, which is God's Plan for Your Life by Palvani Nirwan, is a very, very good book. I highly recommend it for anyone. And I believe that if you really connected with this speech, or you just want to grow in your faith, or you want to see what God's plan is for you, or anything of the sorts, I would highly, highly recommend that book. Now, you might not always think God has a plan for you. There are tragedies that happen, or things that you think God would have control over, but he just can't. Or you think that he would allow it to not happen, but he did. And you have to remember that God has a plan for you. And sometimes God throws some stressors at you. He'll throw random homework here when you were already jam-packed with everything, or he'll throw a work situation here when you just can't deal with anything more. And all of this is to build you up so that in the future you can handle other stuff. God has a plan for you, and you have to remember that with the assistance of God, you can get through anything. Now, the bottom line I have come up with is that God is with you. God is with you, and with God, you can get through anything. And this is really what I'm trying to stress to everyone, is that with God, anything is possible. And God truly has a path for you, and what you're going to accomplish in the world, and you just have to trust him. So thank you for listening to my speech.